Hey everybody, what is going on? This is Anthony with the VR Game Rankings YouTube show, and you guys are tuned in to the daily vlog series. Today is Tuesday, March 20th. This is episode 122 of our show, and GDC week continues. Yesterday, obviously, we got a lot of different news stories that popped out relating to GDC, and I expect that situation to continue today as well as through the rest of the week. Sometimes we're going to have some late breaking stories that come a little bit later, and sometimes we're going to have a lot of big news stories that hit early in the morning, and it will just vary like that. But before we get into today's stories, I did want to talk briefly about the reaction that happened yesterday to the fallout, if you will, from the price reveal of the HTC Vive Pro, because this was all over the internet. It was all over the various VR subreddits. A lot of talk yesterday about this pricing and about how it kind of caught everybody off guard. We have a lot of HTC Vive fans that were very disappointed and very frustrated by such a high price tag. A lot of these people were ready with open arms to support the HTC Vive Pro if the price was, say, $499 for a a la carte headset. Tons of Vive fans would have bought it at that price. I think even if it was $599.99, I think a lot of Vive fans would have jumped on it at that price. But at $799, I think it's just a situation where a lot of Vive fans are like, you know what, man, I really love the HTC Vive. I want to have a new and improved HTC Vive, but I just can't jump up to that $800 plateau. And I understand that. I understand the frustration. And one of the things that I'll say to everybody out there that's in this boat is, you know what, there could be a silver lining here, because one of the things that we have to consider is the upgrade really that great? That's what I kind of come back to is, honestly, I wasn't that interested in the HTC Vive Pro, because when I found out about the resolution, we're basically talking about a Samsung Odyssey that is in there. We're talking about a built-in deluxe audio strap, you know, the microphones, the extra cameras on the front. Will anything ever actually materialize out of that? That remains to be seen. I was hoping for a much bigger boost in resolution myself personally, because when you talk to a lot of Samsung Odyssey owners or people that have tried a Samsung Odyssey, one of the number one things that you hear right away is that menu and text is so much clearer. But another thing that you kind of hear as you talk to these people a little bit more is that the actual gameplay experience, for the most part, is extremely subtle. The differences are very subtle. You don't really notice the differences that much. Now, if you're playing a game with a ton of menus and a ton of text, there is some benefit there. But maybe, just maybe, a lot of these HTC Vive owners that are frustrated, they wanted to make the upgrade, maybe you guys dodged a bullet. Maybe there will be a much better Steam VR headset that could be announced in the very near future, and maybe your pennies would be better spent on that. We're just going to have to see how this all shakes out and see how it plays out. Now, having said all of that, I know there are some of you out there that don't give a damn. You're going to go ahead and pre-order this thing anyway. In fact, most of you have probably already pre-ordered it as we speak here. But one thing I did want to remind some people is that if you are in the USA and if you are planning on pre-ordering an HTC Vive Pro from Amazon.com, don't forget that we do have Amazon associate links that are in the description of this YouTube video. You can click on the link. It'll take you right to the HTC Vive Pro pre-order page for Amazon. And yes, VR Game Rankings, we do get a kickback if you're in the USA, and if you pre-order your HTC Vive Pro and you actually go through with the entire purchase and you receive it and all of that. Yes, VR Game Rankings will get a small kickback for that. But you know what? I don't mind marketing this or talking about this because you know what? If you were going to pre-order it from Amazon anyway, who cares? Why not support VR Game Rankings at the same time? I definitely do not want anybody pre-ordering this just to try to help us out. But if you were going to do it anyway, and if you happen to live in the USA and you were going to do it through Amazon, yeah, you can help us out. So why not go ahead and do that? I should have mentioned this yesterday. It was a major mistake on my part. Oh, well, these things happen. Okay, so let's get into the first story of the day. And the first story of the day is budget cuts. Yeah, this was kind of a late news item yesterday. We did not get this early. It came out a little bit later in the day. Now, what did we find out about budget cuts? Well, we found out about a locked-in release date. May 16th is the arrival of the full version of budget cuts. So go ahead and mark that on your calendar. And the price of the game is going to be $30. Now, the best news actually of the entire thing is the fact that we found out that a typical playthrough of the single player game lasts around 7 to 8 hours, and 7 to 8 hours of budget cuts, that sounds like a tremendous amount of game content there, because if you play the actual demo for budget cuts, it lasts around 22 to 25 minutes, depending around how long you take going through that demo. So just imagine having that many 22-minute chunks that would fit into 7 or 8 hours. We're going to get a lot of great content from budget cuts. We've seen some new videos, some new screenshots. The game looks really good. The robots look like they've been kind of redesigned. They look a lot sleeker, a lot more, a better design. They look a little bit more menacing, a little bit scarier, if you will. And the gameplay looks like it's really been buttoned up. It's really been tightened up. The graphics look really clean and crisp. And there seems to be a lot of work that has gone on with this game from a standpoint of lighting. Lighting seems to be a very big part of this game. In fact, some of the people that have demoed the game have said that you're in certain areas where it's very dark, you're in other areas where it's very light, and then there's also light switches that you can flip on or flip off, and it has something to do with the gameplay. Like it changes the gameplay up a little bit. Probably the robots that are patrolling around, if you're in the dark, maybe it's harder for them to notice you. If you turn on the lights, you can see a lot better, you know what's going on, but the robots can probably see you better as well. So we are super excited for budget cuts. May 16th, a locked-in date. There's been a lot of good news in the VR gaming industry lately. I mean, we heard about Skyrim is coming, and now we know about budget cuts. So it is a beautiful thing. We're going to get 2 of our most wanted VR games within a 60-day period. That is awesome. So we're definitely looking forward to budget cuts on May 16th. Okay, so story number 3 that I wanted to get into is Vive Trackers 2.0 are now live. If you go to the HTC Vive website, if you go to the accessory section and you want to order yourself a Vive Tracker, odds are you are going to be ordering Vive Tracker 2.0. Now, how do you tell the difference between the original Vive Tracker and the new and improved Vive Tracker? Well, new and improved from the standpoint that it is forwards compatible with the new base stations that are going to be coming later this year. And the way you tell the difference is the little Vive logo that is on the tracker itself. If the Vive logo is blue, that is the 2.0 tracker. If the Vive logo is kind of white or grayish in color, that is the original Vive tracker. Also, when you are about to order this tracker, it will have in parentheses 2018, that is the new Vive Tracker. So if you get it set up to order it and you don't see 2018 in parentheses right next to the Vive Tracker, you might be getting one of the old ones. So maybe back out of that order, don't do it. Hopefully, eventually, all of the old Vive Trackers will be completely gone, and the only tracker that anybody will get when they order it is the brand new one. Now, some people might say, this doesn't really matter. It only matters if you're going to end up getting these new lighthouses at some point in the future. But, it's a good idea to future-proof anyway, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know what headset you're going to end up getting, say, 8 or 9 months from now. You could end up with a new Steam VR headset that has the new base stations. You might as well have the future-proof trackers. So that is good news there. The price is the same. It is still $99. There is no change on that. Alrighty, next story of the day is Blaze Rush. Yeah, this is not any kind of major GDC news, but I gotta bring this up because Blaze Rush is one of my favorite Oculus Rift games there is. This game is outstanding. It is a seated controller-based game, but it is fun on a stick, and you can pick up Blaze Rush for a mere $2.99. We're talking $3 for Blaze Rush. It is 70% off. I'm not sure how long this sale is going to run, but it is in effect right now. And whenever I bring up the game Blaze Rush, the first thing that pops into my mind is rock and roll racing back on the Super Nintendo. Way back in the days, rock and roll racing, I feel like when I'm playing Blaze Rush, it's like, oh man, this is rock and roll racing. You got these little cars that are driving right around you, and the little animations that happen, the detail, the smoke when your car crashes and a bunch of parts fly all up into the air. The detail, the clarity is so good. It is just an awesome game, incredibly fun, very enjoyable. Blaze Rush, only $3. If you don't already have that, make sure to grab that. Of course, most of us already have that because it has been on sale a number of different times. We've seen it for $5 a lot of different times, but now it's only $3. That is a great deal. And before I bounce out of here today, I did want to cover Apex Construct, which has released today for the Oculus Rift and for the HTC Vive. The game is available on the Oculus Store as well as Steam. It is $29.99. This game is being brought to us by Fast Travel Games. Now, of course, this game did launch originally on the PlayStation VR about a month ago. Fast Travel Games did provide me with a code for the PSVR version. They've also provided me with a code for the Steam VR version, so full disclosure as far as that goes. Now, I really enjoyed the PlayStation VR version. The one main issue I had with the PlayStation VR version is sometimes the controls got a little bit hectic, especially from the standpoint of the snap turning. Now, I believe the developer over time, they patched that snap turning and kind of fixed it, because the more I played it in later sessions, I didn't notice it really bothering me very much. But now when we get to the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive version, I'm actually playing this, of course, on my Oculus Rift, I don't notice any problems whatsoever. There's no problems with the snap turning. Snap turning works beautifully. The free locomotion works beautifully. Teleporting works beautifully. Everything is working great with this game. And so what is my take on Apex Construct? Should you plunk down $30 on this game? Well, honestly, I think it's a really good game. I think it's a great adventure game. It has a legitimate story. That's the one thing that Fast Travel Games is doing with this game. They've really developed a story with this game. And so as you're going through it, you're accessing computer terminals, you're picking up little notes that are left behind, you're picking up bulletin boards with information written on them, and it kind of fleshes out the story. And the story is fleshed out through notes that are left on the computer terminals, and the story is kind of unfolding as you go along. It's not an incredibly action-packed game. There's a lot of slow moments, a lot of exploratory moments, but then occasionally what happens is the action flares up and you'll enter a combat situation. The music will all of a sudden kick in, and then boom, you are now in a combat situation, and it's basically bow and arrow combat is what you're working with here. If there is a downside to the game, I'd say maybe the biggest downside is there's really only one enemy that you deal with. There's not a lot of different enemies, which that could have provided a little bit more of a little bit more variety there. And then the other problem is that the music kicks on, you immediately know when you're going to get into combat. So there's no question there. So when you don't have any of the music blaring in the background, you know that you can kind of relax, that it is not a combat situation. And then when the music comes in blaring, boom, you know that combat is there. Now, what about the graphics? Have the graphics been improved by leaps and bounds over PSVR coming to the Oculus Rift and to the HTC Vive? I don't know that the graphics have improved necessarily by leaps and bounds, but the game does look better. The game looks cleaner, crisper, and really one of the biggest improvements is just the room scale factor. When you're playing it on PlayStation VR, if you accidentally get yourself turned around a little bit, you'll get this message that pops up on the screen to turn around and face your sensors. It's a very annoying thing that happens in a lot of PSVR games, and the beauty of room scale, if you go into the options and you turn this on, you'll never see that message throughout this game, which that improves it greatly. And just being able to kind of walk around, move around, have pinpoint accuracy, pinpoint tracking compared to the Move controllers, it does feel quite a bit better. I really am enjoying Apex Construct. The game isn't perfect. The game does have some minor issues. Graphics are a little similar to Eagle Flight. They're very cartoonish, so some people might want a little bit more realism in their graphics. I liked how colorful and bright everything was, and I feel like it's a really cool world to explore. And if you're the type of gamer that likes to kind of take your time and explore your way through the world and have the story slowly unfold as you move along through the world with some light combat, that's kind of what this game brings to the table. Now, on one hand, I'll say it's kind of bad timing for Fast Travel Games because they are releasing their game at a very busy time on the VR gaming scene, because I believe the Mage's Tale arrives for HTC Vive players tomorrow. You've got Arc Park or not tomorrow, but in a couple of days, the Mage's Tale is coming out. You got Arc Park coming out in a couple days as well. And then, of course, Skyrim VR is just around the corner. So it's very hot and heavy on the VR gaming scene. So, you know, if there's one downside I would say to Apex Construct is the fact that it is a $30 game and there's a lot of other games coming as well. But if you're really into story-based games and you really like exploring and you like that kind of a gameplay loop, I think you could do very well with Apex Construct. So I pretty much recommend it. I haven't completely finished this game. I've gotten to the very last final stage of the game. I'm working my way through the final stage of the game, but I've had a lot of good times with Apex Construct. Alrighty, folks, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for today's show. This, of course, has been episode 122 of our daily vlog series for Tuesday, March 20th. I, of course, will be back tomorrow on Wednesday. Hopefully a lot more GDC news, some more breaking stories, and some good stuff to sink our teeth into. So I will be back tomorrow. Everybody have a wonderful Tuesday. See you guys tomorrow. Later.